بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أدى الأمانة وبلغ الرسالة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حق جهاده جزاه الله عنا أوفر الجزاء. Sisters and brothers, Salamullahi alaikum wa rahmatuhu wa barakatuhu. It's a pleasure to meet you online. I wish I met you in person, but circumstances did not allow that. But inshallah, at some later time, when circumstances are more favorable, I will come and we meet in person. Now, I want to talk about my ideas on how we can plan Islamic education in our communities. Okay, this education and learning, the Islamic term that is correct is called tarbiyah. So this program is going to be called a tarbiyah program. It has got learning, but also it has got upbringing, culture, and behavior and personality. So this program is designed for elementary and secondary school students who had limited opportunities to learn about Islam because facilities were not available or circumstances were not conducive to learn about Islam as a religion, as a lifestyle within a cultural framework. This program is very straightforward. It presents fundamental concepts and ideas on which we can build further educational growth and development in adulthood. You need to have this strong base in childhood. And our aim is to make the character of our students strong so that they can go through the challenges, the difficulties of life with firmness. And we have both theoretical and practical skills. The program has got several modules. Now, when it comes to teachers, we may not have enough teachers to teach this Tarbiyah program because of the circumstances we went through. All of you know the problems that happened. Not enough teachers, not enough facilities for them to teach. So we use the word facilitators. This means we don't need specialized educators. We only need people, adults, who know something about their religion, the basics of their religion. المعلوم من الدين بالضرورة. So you can have a doctor, an engineer, a farmer, anybody who is a Muslim and knows the basics of Islam can be a facilitator for this program. Part of it is that this program is primarily self-directed. The students also themselves are driving the learning. They do teach themselves. So the facilitator is there to help guide them. And these facilitators may be parents, school teachers, or university students who have time during their vacations. What are the media that we use? It can be in person if possible, but also we can have it online because there are places where there are no facilitators. We can do it online using the internet. And it is better to conduct this outside the regular school hours or on weekdays and weekends or vacation periods. And I think we can have this program on USB drives. It can be on desktops, laptops, iPads, or mobile telephones. And if people don't have access to these devices, we can have a special center where we can have computers and screens and speakers so they can follow the program. And where all of these are not possible, the program can be printed on paper, inshallah. So we need to plan the times very well and the pacing on the program. Now, this program does not have a fixed sequence. we leave it to the local circumstances. Some people may go through it quickly, some may take a longer time, so that is very flexible. The sources of the program are the Quran and Hadith, and we want as much as possible to present Quranic learning in the video format. And the Hadith from Nawawi's collection of what Hadith. Now we have been trying to make sure that we choose verses of the Quran and Hadiths to convey the essential religious knowledge, al-ma'lum min ad-din bil-darura, while making sure that people understand. Now, there are theoretical modules that are theory about Quran, Hadith, and fundamental concepts of Aqidah and Iman. This can be taught, like in a classroom, a virtual session. But we have also got practical modules, as you will see, that focus on practical things, acts of worship, al-ibadat, routines of life, al-adat, personal and social skills, al-maharat. So these ones will require demonstration by a facilitator or by using a video presentation. Now, I am not going to go through the modules. We've got 12 modules, and I am not going to say exactly what will be taught, but I'm just presenting what should be in that module, and then we'll be looking for resources to be able to teach this. Module 1 is basic Quran literacy. We need to teach the children to recognize and articulate Arabic characters, consonants, vowels, and their critical marks. Then they need to learn how the letters change depending on where they are, at the beginning of the word, in the middle of the word, or at the end of the word. And then they learn how to correctly pronounce when several letters are put together. And they will need to exercise their literacy using the short surahs of Juzu Amma. Okay. Module number 2 is Quran study. In this module, we want the students to start learning what the Quran says. Now, they cannot learn the whole Quran. So we confine the Quran study to Surah Al-Fatiha, which is Al-Kitab. It's the most important surah of the Quran. And Surah Al-Baqarah. Surah Al-Baqarah is in a way a summary of the whole Quran. So if you learn these two surahs, you have been able to get the essence of the entire Quran. So we have chosen verses from these two surahs, not very long ones, and then we chose those that have got clear themes and that can be understood without much tafsir. So in the Quran study session, the students first recite the Quran in Arabic, and then they see the translation in English or in their native language. So the facilitator guides them to enable the students or the learners to get the moral and practical lessons from these verses and how they can be applied in both individual lives and community lives. And we need to persuade, encourage the learners to memorize selected verses in order to incorporate them in their Salat practices. Now, these are the verses that we selected in the Surah Al-Fatiha and Surah Al-Baqarah, selected verses for study, because these are, the learners are young. We give them the most important things, short verses that encapsulate many ideas that they need to know about Islam. Module number 3 is study of the Hadith. Now, moral ethics and Islamic culture are learned from Hadith. And now we thought Hadith is a good collection that builds the moral basis and the cultural basis for further growth of the learners. So these Hadiths a fundamental aspect of Islamic teaching. Now, they need to read the hadith in Arabic and then read the translation in English on their language. So the facilitator again guides discussions aimed at identifying the moral and ethical lessons that we can learn from the hadith and how to apply it in everyday life. Now, we have a list here of the hadiths of An-Nawawi that are recommended for this level of learners. And they include the essential things that they need to be good Muslims. Now, this is the continuation of the hadith, and with each hadith, we give you the theme or the content that is good, the educational objective that we are going to get from it. Module number 4 is about Aqidah. In this module, the facilitator gives a comprehensive overview of the fundamental aspects of the Aqidah, the Islamic creed. Now, already in their study of Quran and Hadith, the learners have come across many of these ones, but now we are going to present them in a systematic way. So the key elements of Aqidah is the oneness of Allah, Tawheed, the prophethood, Al-Akhirah, the afterlife. So the believers should understand these in a very coherent way, because these are the essential beliefs that they have to have. Now, we need to reinforce the connection between the teachings found in the Quran and the Hadith and the implications for daily life and spiritual practice. So we need to encourage the learners to think on the significance of the concepts that we teach them in Aqidah in their personal life. Now, Module 5 are the 3 fundamentals of the Deen, Usuluddin. The 3 fundamentals are Al-Islam, Al-Iman, and Ihsan. Islam has got 5 pillars. Iman has got 6 pillars. Ihsan is the highest of these 3 fundamentals because it's a pursuit of excellence in all actions. It's essential that belief is unwavering and devoid of any doubt. So in whatever we do, we need to improve Islam. Ihsan is needed in the 5 pillars of Islam. Ihsan is needed in the 6 pillars of Iman. It's the highest of the 3 fundamentals. The 6th module is Tahara and Salat. As I said at the beginning, these modules are taken in the sequence that is suitable for the local circumstances. I don't say start with this and end with this. So locally, we decide which one we start with and for how long. We are very flexible in this program. Tahara and Salah, this is demonstration. The facilitator should show the learners how to make wudu, how to make ghusl, the bath, okay, and how to make tayammum. And then they teach them how to do it and watch them do it and correct any mistakes that they are doing. Then the facilitator also demonstrates the adhan and the iqamah for salah. Then they ask the learners to repeat the adhan and to repeat the iqamah while they correct them. Then the facilitators proceed to demonstrate the performance of each of the 5 obligatory prayers. We need to do this as Jibril did with the Prophet ﷺ. Jibril used to come in the morning and pray Fajr with the Prophet. Come again at Dhuhr, pray Dhuhr with the Prophet. Come again at Asr and pray Asr with the Prophet. So with our learners, we need to demonstrate the performance of each prayer, actual performance, not theory. And after the prayer with taslim, we teach them the adhkar, the remembrances that are said after salah, and then la ilaha illallah, alhamdulillah, subhanallah, astaghfirullah. We teach them to say those at the end of the salah. Now, we need to let the learners practice the salah, as the facilitator can correct them, okay? And the facilitator also should show the difference between what the imam does and what the ma'amum, the follower, does in a congregational prayer. Now, additional explanation demonstrations are provided regarding some types of prayer. Like, for example, salah for the sick, salatul marid. Salah for the traveler, salatul musafir. And prayer performed in times of fear, salatul khawf. So these also can be demonstrated so that the learners know. So through this comprehensive approach, the facilitators will make sure that the learners gain a thorough understanding of the practice and regulations associated with the salah, and that they are able to go and perform the salah. So, Module 7. The facilitators provide an explanation of the types of fasting, because some Sawm is obligatory, like Sawm Ramadan, and some fasting is nafila, non-obligatory. Now, they need to know the detailed regulations and etiquette associated with fasting. They have to take suhoor, and then they have to make iftar. And in between, they must know what is permissible during the daylight hours of fasting and what is not permissible. And the facilitators should explain exemptions from fasting for individuals who are ill or are traveling. Module 8 is about the activities of normal life. So the facilitators provide instruction on the proper carrying out of various activities of daily living. For example, going to sleep, waking up from sleep, hand washing, oral hygiene, toilet hygiene, menstrual hygiene. All of these things should be taught in our tarbiyah program. We shouldn't assume that they learn it from home. We need to teach it. We need to teach the importance of modest clothing and grooming that is appropriate for the gender. There is clothing appropriate for men and clothing appropriate for women. They also should teach the habits of eating and drinking. How do you eat? How do you drink? Because the Prophet gave us detailed instruction on those. What are the prohibited foods and drinks? Use of the right hand while eating. And the importance of moderation in eating to prevent excess and waste. They also should teach them, how do you sit with other people? How do you walk with humility? The habits of sneezing, yawning, and also the protocols for entering and exiting into a vehicle like a car. Finally, they need to address the etiquette about going out of the house. What do you say when you go out of the house? What do you say when you come back from the house? They also need to teach them the Islamic habits of walking on the road and to know the rights of the road that the Prophet taught us. Module 9 is about the family. We need to teach them to understand that the home is a sanctuary of protection for its inhabitants. It's a place for comfort and security. So we must observe the privacy of the home. It's very important. Okay? We also need to know that the home is a place where family members gather. So we need to understand that the family reinforces familial bonds. We need to understand that the family is a social unit. It has got spouses and their offsprings. And if the family is successful, the community will be successful. It's very important for the learners to learn very early that harmony in the family is necessary, because then the children will grow up as good Muslims, and then future families will also be good Muslim families. We need to teach them about the relationships between spouses, the husband and the wife. Women have their rights, men have their rights. Women have their responsibilities, men have their responsibilities. They need to be taught these quite early when they are still young, so that when they grow up and think of getting married, they understand what to do. We need to teach the children to express gratitude and respect to their parents. They must do good things for their parents and treat them with kindness and respect. And children should be ready to help their parents when they are in old age. Communicate with them politely and ask Allah to forgive them. Now, parents should be treated with respect, and they should be regarded as a valuable asset in the experience of this earthly life. Relatives, we should teach the learners the importance of keeping relations with the relatives and to uphold the rights of relatives. These rights may be financial support and silatul raham, preservation of cohesive kinship ties. Now, Module 10 is about the community. Responsibilities in the community begin with the masjid. The learner should understand the role of the masjid. It's Allah's house of worship, and it's also the center of the life of the community. They should understand the protocols of the masjid. How do you enter the masjid? How do you sit in the masjid? How do you go out in the masjid? Also, they should be taught about i'tikaf, seclusion, to sit in the masjid, which is a very important ibadah. They need to know how to keep the masjid clean and how to dress properly for the masjid. Brotherhood. The learner should understand that there is Islamic brotherhood that must be kept. This includes at-ta'awun fil birr, cooperating, doing good things, at-takaful, mutual assistance, and ashura, consulting one another, and al-ithar, altruism, putting the interests of your brothers above your own interests. To keep brotherhood, we must be able to suppress anger, kadhumul ghayth, and forgiving when your brother wrongs you. Now, we need to avoid the things that destroy brotherhood, such as envy, hasad, su'udhan, negative thoughts, and bad behaviors like backbiting, al-ghayba, and secretive conversations and najwa, as well as mockery of others, as-sukhriya. Now, part of the brotherhood is charitable giving, sadaqah. This should be done secretly. And part of brotherhood is ikramul jar, respect for the neighbors, and ikramul life, respect for the guests. Now, we need to remember that orphans in our community must be helped, must be attended. The poor must have their needs fulfilled, and the destitute must also be helped. So all of these things are taught to the learners in Module 10. Also, Module 10 has to do with personal conduct and character. Basically, we want to emulate or copy the character of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. We need to have sincerity, ikhlas niyya, elevated moral standards, husn al-khulq, modesty, al-haya, adherence to the right path, al-istiqama, and following the regulations of halal and haram, and eating only what is tayyib. We need to learn to renounce materialism as zuhud and always engage in thinking and checking ourselves, introspection and moral consultation, and always exhibit excellence in the work that we do. إتقان العمل. إذا عمل أحدكم عملا فليتقنه. The Prophet said, if any of you does a work, you should do it perfectly. So these are aspects of personal conduct and character. Then we need to teach them social intercourse with the community. How do you live in the community? You must tell the truth. Say the straight word, قولا سديدا. Use the best words, أحسن القول, and speak leniently, قولا لينا. The learners need to learn the etiquette of visiting the sick, عيادة المريض, and giving condolences. They need to learn the etiquette of being modest and lowering their gaze. They need to respond to salam. They must avoid vain, useless talk, and they should avoid the talk of the ignorant. They need to give sincere advice, nasiha to others, and call to Islam with wisdom. Ad-da'wa bil-hikmah. So these are the things that are needed to make the community intercourse successful. Now we move to module 11, which is personal skills. Part of the Tarbiyah program is teaching the learners personal skills. Various methods can be used to do this. I cannot say there is one method. You can use videos, demonstrations, personal experiences, but we need to impart essential life skills to the learners. The learners must learn how to communicate well, both one-to-one and group settings, as well as public speaking. They need to be trained in this. They need to be trained in leadership. How do you lead? How do you manage your time? How do you manage your finances? How do you engage in the community, like cleaning mosques, schools, and public areas? So these are personal skills that are taught in a practical way. Module 12 is about sports and physical fitness and entertainment. So we want to make sure that our learners in the community enjoy sports, enjoy entertainment, but we need to teach them the halal sports and the halal entertainment. It's very important that they engage in sports and physical programs as participants and not just observers. We shouldn't teach them to go and watch people playing football. They should play football themselves. So we need to organize regular entertainment and recreational activities, which could be film screenings, theatrical performances, recitals of music that is halal, poetry readings, cultural exhibitions, food festivals, picnics, and outings. So the aim is to make sure that these things that attract the young people are organized by the community in a halal and acceptable way. Finally, we need to teach them the seerah and the history. We need to teach them the history of the rise of Islam from the time of the Prophet Al-Ahd al-Nabawi through the time of the Al-Khilafah al-Rashida, Abu Bakr, Omar, Uthman, and Ali. And then we need to tell them the problems that occurred in the time after that, in the Umayyad, Abbasid, and Uthmani caliphates. Eventually, the caliphate was abolished in 1926. They need to know who abolished it and why they abolished it. Now, we need also to teach them the local history of Islam in their area. So we need to look at the achievements of Muslim civilizations in Southeast Asia, with the emphasis on the archipelago, because there are many achievements, and our young people should know them so that they are inspired that their ancestors had achievements and had a Muslim civilization that they need to uphold. So thank you very much. There are several references to what I have said, and inshallah, the facilitators can use these references to teach and make sure that the program is applied. Now, I just want to say that the program that I have presented is a proposal. Putting it in practice will depend on the local people, local leaders. They can choose some things from the program and leave out some other things. Also, they can add on some things that they think are necessary for local understanding. They also have to decide on the sequence of the modules. I have presented 12 modules, but it doesn't mean that you present them in the same way as I have given them. You may start with one and then bring the other later on. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.